How's it going, everybody? We are continuing our hunt for the second Pokemon in the Shiny Badge Quest of Pokemon Shield, and hoping we can get our Shiny today. So far, we've made a lot of progress. So we have over 500 defeated for, who is it? Growlithe, Gossifleur, and Zigzagoon. I actually need to get my counter set up, so just give me a moment. But basically, for any Brilliant Aura encounter of those, we will have a 1 in a little over 500 chance of our shiny. And then for the rest of them, they're all pretty far under 500 encounters. So I don't know if we'll get there. I think we're going to get the shiny before we max out everything. I hope so. But we're definitely taking advantage of the Brilliant Aura mechanic for the first two hunts here. We got the shiny Skwovet using a Brilliant Aura. I think it was at 1 in 800 something odd, so nothing crazy, but yeah, it definitely helps push these along quite a bit. But I think there's going to be a full odds hunt somewhere in here where I'll just do regular encounters. I might do a random grass encounter and see what I can do about getting a just full odds shiny, but not ready to do that just yet. I kind of want to get a decent bit into this hunt or into this challenge and then start giving myself more difficult challenges for this hunt. But it's been fun so far. This is my first time streaming, so it's been entertaining to just kind of jump into a challenge that keeps you motivated to coming back. But let's get into it. So we technically missed that encounter. I'm fine with that though. We'll just keep that one off the counter. So we'll have to factor that in at the end to update the count. But we've missed a couple encounters overall, so not keeping it exactly, but that's okay. So with the with Growlithe, Gossifleur, and Zigzagoon at 500, we're only encountering the Brilliant Aura ones for that, just because I'm trying to be efficient in getting those encounters and work on racking up the encounters for these other pokes. So like Trubbish, Stunky, and Tyrogue are all in play to just defeat them so we can get closer to 500 for those. But hoping we don't have to go all the way up there to get that. I have a feeling that we'll, maybe not in this session, but maybe in the next few. Probably gonna hop on stream Saturday night and try to wrap this one up, but going to visit my grandma and aunt and uncle tomorrow after work, and then we'll be heading back Saturday afternoon. So I watched that movie Obsession over the weekend, and that movie is insane. I loved it. And I listened to so I just got turned on to the podcast, The Rewatchables, and I'm really enjoying it. It's fun to watch a movie and then or listen to their podcast after discussing it, because they have like funny awards for each of them. I can't even think of them off the top of my head because they're always long and drawn out, but it's pretty entertaining. But yeah, Obsession, that actress in the Neverette, whatever her name is so good in it. And then apparently like Reddit and the nerds love her just because I think she started out as a COD streamer, so I saw some clip of her like working on a custom PC, which is pretty cool. The nerd's dream girl. Ooh, almost got away, but he did. One thing I was trying to do was notice the gender differences in some of these Gen 8 pokes, and I'm really not seeing a lot. Like, I don't know if they don't have big ones or if it's something they didn't implement fully for this game, but it's kind of hard to tell. All right. Are the encounters going up? I think they are. I haven't been paying attention at all. We get another. No, there we go. But yeah, Obsession was sick. I also my YouTube algorithm has just been all over the Curry Barker sketches, so that's been it's been fun to watch his backlog of sketches. That guy is like a weirdo in a really good way. He's like it's so funny because they're comedy sketches, but you can see the capacity for him to be able to do some sort of horror just because he plays a weirdo, off-putting character in a lot of them. But my dream sketch would be Curry Barker and Tim Robinson. I think they would have like a psychotic, weird sketch together. So that's a dream team I hope comes to fruition at some point. I'm also getting really excited about the NFL season starting. We got some preseason games tonight that I signed up for YouTube TV. I don't know if I'll torment my fiance with putting on football already, but especially with the preseason. But the Patriots do play tonight, and I'm a big Pats fan, so maybe she'll want to watch a little bit. But all right, we got our first aura poke up here. Will it be the shiny? Nope. Probably racking up so many watts just doing this challenge. But yeah, really excited for the NFL to start up. Um, I'm in probably too many fantasy leagues. I think that'll be, if all things go well, it'll only be 4 this year. I'm trying to get out of my work league, and I had a league with like my local Boston friends, but it was never that competitive, and it's just the league I definitely care the least about. So I'm gonna try to cut that one out for sure. And then if I get out of my work league, then we're only got 4, which is manageable enough for me. But yeah, I just got the news that, or the news came out today about Pokemon Bank closing. So all of a sudden I had this, because one thing I didn't react to is when three when the eShop closed on the 3DS. I didn't go on and buy um, random games, which I wish I had, just because I modded my 3DS, so you can download anything you want after you do that. But um, now I'm definitely gonna make a push to try to get a Living Dex put together and send it up into home before the cutoff. So I have till February 26th to get that done. But I think it'll be a fun time playing through some old games. I booted up my Ultra Sun at lunch today just to kind of see where I was at, and I caught Bucephalon. I was in the post game. Actually, I have a really cool team there, but I think I'm gonna shiny hunt a Pikachu and then something else. I was looking at Ninetales. That's definitely high on the list because Alolan Ninetales is just awesome and would be cool to have a shiny. Ninetales shinies are just great across the board. I think Kanto Ninetales is the better shiny, but uh, Ice Fairy type is just too cool. But yeah, I definitely want to like think through some playthroughs and just I know you can get a Magearna in um, Gen 7 somehow, so I need to figure that out. But I just want to make sure that like any exclusive Pokemon, and because I have a modded 3DS, I can basically activate all the events for each of the games, so I can get some of the harder to get legendaries and mythicals up into my um, home, just so I have those locked in. Also, one thing I'm excited about is basically part of the reason I haven't completed my living decks is out of laziness because just organizing all the pokes I have in there, like I have like a good chunk of it. We'll call it 60% easily, and that's just from transferring up random stuff over time. And if I really pull together everything I have in my DS games now, I think I'm pretty close to a living deck. So I kind of just want to get that done, and then it'll motivate me to play through the Scarlet and Violet DLC I never played through. So I think it'll trigger some not repetition playing the same games over and over again. And I'm pretty deep into a Soul Silver playthrough right now, actually, and I want to wrap that up, but I'm kind of losing steam on it. And one thing, it's sometimes you are playing a game and you're like, I need to finish it because I started it and I'm so close, but sometimes you just don't want to. And I'm almost hitting that point in Soul Silver. I just beat Claire and I went to the Kimono Girls thing in Ecruteak City to try to go and catch Lugia, but I haven't found one of them, so I'm basically at the point where I need to do a map crawl. And I have three shinies on that team, so it's really cool, but I'm just kind of losing steam at this point. And then I started thinking about Ultra Sun and finishing the post game, which I played it earlier this year, and that sounds a little more fun to me than finishing Soul Silver right now. So I'm having an internal battle on what game I want to play, but that's where I do abide by like play the game that you want to play. It's your free time, and like that's what I kind of like about this is this I can just kind of do in the background. It's not something I need to like play all the time, and it's pretty mindless. So once I do catch a shiny and start advancing the plot, like I'll play through a chunk of it, but it's something I can kind of come back to every couple weeks and not feel obligated to play it all the time because it's inherently a slow play with all the shiny hunting. And that's how I kind of played the Soul Silver playthrough because I have a shiny lady and in that game, shiny Meganium. I did the soft resets for the starters and got the shiny Chikorita, so that was cool. But basically, I yeah, and then I got a shiny Grappler, like a random one, right after I had found the shiny Chikorita, so that was really cool. I got in Dark Cave, but it is a really cool playthrough. But I'm just kind of losing steam on it, and I do want to finish it though. It's a really good hangout game, but I think what happened was it wasn't. So I did a shiny Lady and Hunt, and I almost gave up on the shiny Lady and Hunt, but getting snubbled so bad. I don't know why it took so long, but I literally must have been searching for like 300 or 400 encounters. I was way over odds on just a 1% encounter. And I was like, at this point, I'm probably gonna get another random encounter shiny before I get a um, snubble. But I ended up getting it after a long time, like too many encounters. It was kind of ridiculous. But since then, I've just been losing steam a little bit on the game, and that's one thing that I've struggled with Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I don't know what it is because I love the games. The following Pokemon, everything is so awesome about it. But I think I don't need to put pressure on myself to finish it if I'm not totally feeling it. Honestly, once the NFL starts, I'm gonna be. Pokemon is the perfect game to just rip while you're watching football on Sundays, so there's going to be a lot of that. So we might get some more shiny hunts. I won't. require myself to catch more shinies before the Elite Four, but maybe in the post game I would do a couple hunts. Honestly, I feel like I'm due just because I've been slow playing that game ridiculously, and it's a lot of fun. But basically, I think I have a good shot at getting a lot more or a couple more shinies in that game. I just don't know what I would hunt. I would need to find a cool grass patch, and I think that's what would be fun about the post game is like I vaguely remember the encounters that are available in the post game in Gen 2, but not Gen 4. And you can even manipulate it more by putting the Gen 3 games in the bottom cartridge so I can start playing with my DS Lite to try to trigger some of those. So I, there definitely is an opportunity to have a lot of fun hunts in the post game there. So I'm going to keep the door open for maybe one or two more hunts. I hope I just get a random one and then I have momentum because obviously I have the shiny Gyarados, so like I get to finish that game with a team of six. One thing I'm kind of struggling with right now is whether I um what was I gonna say? Lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me. But basically, there's a lot of DS to be played this NFL season for me because I'm gonna need to take advantage of getting as many um, DS game pokes transferred up to home. My hope, I think Gen 6 is when I'm gonna struggle with the most, but I think I need to go in with like a completionist mentality in some of the games. And unfortunately, that means that I probably won't be playing a ton of Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. They do have legendaries, but I do have a completed Omega Ruby file. And the reason is I think what will contribute most to Dex completion is finishing X and Y. And I have a finished X file on cartridge, but not Y. So basically, I think I need to do the rounds in those games and see what I can get for folks to transfer up because I think Gen 6 is probably where the biggest gaps will be, and that's a pretty small dex overall. So we'll see, but I think it's going to be a big DS fall and early winter. Honestly, February is like the end of middle of winter. Yeah, middle of winter. But it is interesting how it ends right before Pokemon Day. Yeah, Pokemon Day, and I think what will really get speculation of about what they're planning is whether if there's a DS, ooh, we got one. No. If there's a DS, what what's it called? Like the online subscription, you get the free SNES and GBA games, classics. What I don't know exactly what they're called, but basically, if they really announce a DS version of that in the next couple months before Pokemon Day, and then we like leading up to Pokemon Day, this speculation on them releasing any of the DS games will be so high. However, I do think because they went the ports route with Fire Red and Leaf Green, I think it's very possible that they are going to just release ports of them and sell them. But so we'll see how they manage it. I think it's more likely they do ports, so it might not be contingent on a DS. Ooh, we got another one. We're crushing the Snunky right now. Um, Shiny Snunky would be pretty sweet. I've kind of been writing it off because it's just annoying since I keep having to use Super Potion since it has Aftermath. But like, look at that. I gotta use a Super Potion or my Pangora's gonna die. But honestly, I think that it's a pretty good chance that we um, get it through a port anyways, just because I think connectivity to home through that versus like the whatever the Nintendo DS app with a collection of classic games is just a little less likely. I really wonder what they're going to do with Gen 1 and 2, and there's probably been a lot of discussion because obviously they could sell ports of that and people would buy them inevitably, even with Fire Red and Leaf Green. I think there'd be a big audience of people that would be happy to buy a Gen 1 game. But I think because in the N64 you have the um, Stadium games, Pokemon Stadium, that they might go that route and then figure out a way to connect the Pokemon Stadium pokes, or sorry, the pokes you get in like blue, red, yellow, gold, silver, crystal, and you can load them into the Pokemon Stadium games. So I think that type of connectivity, I don't know if it would be clunky. I feel like it would be a little clunky, just like in plugging those in from their developer standpoint, but it just makes too much sense. And those games, ultimately, I think were made to be played with a team you played through with in on cartridge. But yeah, I think Pokemon Stadium 2 is extremely difficult without transferring pokes in. I'd actually that might be a fun challenge to just try to play through Pokemon Stadium 2 with the rental pokes that they give you. But I remember years ago, so it was during the pandemic, and I was beginning my game collecting phase, so I bought an N64 and I had Pokemon Stadium for the first time. Getting an N64 was an unreal feeling because basically I lived with three guys at the time and we were all gamers and they were really into N64. We played a bunch of Mario Kart and just ripped the N64 all the time. But I remember just getting this nostalgia because I had the Super Nintendo and then we got a PS1 when I was younger. And I was missing out on the N64 and like Super Smash Bros, all these games that were sick. But basically, I felt a little excluded from that. So getting to finally play N64 was wild to me, and then I finally bought my own. So that was a really fun experience to like play N64 for the first time. But what happened was I got my N64 during the pandemic, got a couple games off the rip, Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Stadium 2, obviously, and then I played through a whole playthrough of Pokemon Yellow just because I wanted to make a cool team and transfer up the pokes so I could use them as rentals in Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2. And what happened was ooh, old Trubbish, we'll take that. What happened was though, I the the save file battery in the cartridge died. So I lost that whole save file and I was so disappointed. Right as I was like, I beat the Elite Four, finished everything. It was just like, all right, it's time to play Pokemon Stadium now. That was the whole reason I played through Yellow that time. And fucking the cartridge died on me, and there was no Pokemon Stadium to be played. So I still really haven't played the Stadium games outside of just like doing random battles with my friends. So I'll do it at some point. I have the equipment now to rip the save files off the cartridge. Where is that thing? Do I have it out? No, I put it away. It's the Epilogue, like GB Game Boy cartridge thing. So basically, what you can do is it's like this little tiny thing. Let me see if I can find it. It might be in another drawer. It's got to be here. So It's this little doohickey, and what you can do with this is it has a little spot for a cartridge there, so you can put GBA or any Game Boy Color games in there, and you can plug it into your. It has a USB connector, so you can plug it into your laptop PC, and it'll emulate the games for you off the cartridge, which is pretty awesome. But then on top of that, it can rip the save files off of it. So basically, you can, and like ROMs. So I technically can get legitimate ROMs for all of the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games I own, which is pretty cool. Like I can make a case for any of the potentially ROM files I may or may not have procured off of the internet. Basically, anything that I have actually on cartridge very much is legal because now I have the equipment to download it and add it to a library. But you can also get the save files. So that's something I've done where I'm working on a Living Dex for Leaf Green, and I have all of my save files for Leaf Green, which is I have a ton of pokes in there. But now I have the security that if that cartridge were just to die one day, I could get it onto a new cartridge if I needed to go through the trouble of putting it onto a new one. So nice peace of mind for old technology. Not that I trust new technology quite as much, but I do a little bit more. All right, we're coming up on 1900. We definitely won't get too far tonight because I kind of want to watch a movie tonight. I'm not sure. So after listening to the Obsession Rewatchables pod, ooh, we got one. Come on, be the one, be the one. Yeah, but after watching the Obsession Rewatchables episode, I am very much in the mood to start watching movies that they've done podcasts on and then listen to the podcast of them discussing it after. It's almost like having a movie club, but with a podcast you listen to. You obviously can't contribute to it, but it's fun to hear their movie club. It's a Bill Simmons podcast, and I'm a Boston fan, so I should be a bigger Bill Simmons fan, or at least I should have been, but I'm really enjoying all of the Ringer podcast content. They have a very good network of people and hosts. I love their fantasy football podcast. Um, but yeah, I just think it'll be a fun idea to listen to their pods and then watch the movies and then listen to the pods discussing the movie. They have a very funny fantasy football podcast, though. It's got Craig Horlbeck, who is the producer of the Rewatchables. So he isn't really a host, but he does contribute to the podcast, and he's a funny guy. But they have some very people with like interesting roles in the industry. Like I don't know if they're critics, but Bill Simmons, obviously, he was on ESPN as a journalist, so he has experience in that realm. But he was a sports guy, not a movie guy. But he does a really good job hosting that pod. Back in must have been June of this year, I think. Maybe July. Or no, it was actually May. They had Comedy Month and had a bunch of long time requested movies, and they went through like Animal House, Tropic Thunder. I can't remember what else, but there were some good ones in there. Animal House is very funny because It's a movie from the 70s, I think, and definitely some of the humor is not aged well, but I think it's a very funny movie for its time. Some of it is very much offensive nowadays, but I think it holds up really well, and it's funny because it's just a different generation of comedy, and some of the jokes, they're just the jokes aren't structured like they would be today, and I don't think comedy has been quite as good for basically since like that Seth Rogen, Judd Apatow era. It seemed like in the 2000s and early 2010s, there were so many funny movies coming out all the time, and we just haven't seen comedies nearly as much as like I don't know what shifted, but basically it just felt like the quality of comedies and just like the volume of them. I feel like there used to be low budget comedy movies that would go viral every now and then. There'd be probably 20 bad movies for every good one, but it's definitely not as common, or like good comedies just aren't as prevalent nowadays, which is a little sad. But I forgot what my point was. Oh, Animal House. So yeah, it was interesting to just like we had when I was growing up, there was a huge amount of like very funny comedies coming out all the time, and then watching Animal House, just comparatively, the jokes, the humor is all structured differently, and it's still funny. Some of the stuff definitely hasn't aged well, but it's it's not written with punchlines. But I mean, there are punchlines, obviously, but it's it's just a it's really interesting to see that cross-generational humor that is just written in a different way. So, anyways, give Animal House a try. You might hate it, you might love it. I think it's very funny, but I can definitely concede and understand that somebody might think that some of the jokes are offensive and not that great, but I think they do a pretty good job of juggling that. I keep getting these brilliant aura pokes, and I'm getting a good amount because I've definitely had sessions where I've barely gotten any, but at this point, every poke on this route is over 100 encounters, so I got a solid 3% of like look at that, we got another one already. Oh, if it's Stunky, that'd be so funny because I've been actively avoiding it for most of this hunt. It'd be hilarious if that was the poke I ended up getting. What I should do is just check the decks real quick to see where we stand with shiny count or encounter counts because I just do not recall at all where we landed. So we're over 200 for Trubbish. That's pretty good because now it's at like 1 in 840 odds with the brilliant aura encounters. My tough part with that is Trubbish runs away real fast. So okay, Stunky, we're at 74. So we're almost maxed out for 528 for Godswiller. That's so many overall encounters. All right, I'm getting a call. Hold on one second.